All right, we are live for the Thursday edition of the Morning Check-In, and as always, looking forward to connecting, sharing my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter. And the big, beautiful bill is a topic of discussion, and very interested in sharing some thoughts in reference to Peter Schiff's take, as well as Thomas Massey, an elected official who is in a disagreement with this current bill. And so I want to talk about it and a variety of other things. But is it actually beautiful that it's so big? And the total costs, which will probably be $3.84 trillion at the end of the day, will it help us, hurt us, or is it more can kicking? So I like how Peter Schiff refers to it somewhat as the big, beautiful betrayal. So we're going to talk about that a lot more. But before I move forward, welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. For those who might be plugging in, let me know where you're watching from. Give me some thoughts, ideas, suggestions, anything that you're keeping your eyes on. Lots of subjects out there. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, check mark, whatever it is, wherever you're watching. And if you find value here, as always, take this, share it, because my goal is to give you an alternative perspective on what the mainstream media cannot tell you, which is the truth. And so it's going to be an interesting day, to say the least. But yeah, this big, beautiful bill, man. Just as I always mentioned before, whenever they package it up, make it sound all unique and special, that lets you know that within those 1,116 pages, there has to be some fluff, some pork, and just some malinvestment that our government's usually good for. And once again, I'm always critical. I'm going to become more critical of this current administration just because at this current moment, he can pretty much say whatever, do whatever, and there'll be very little pushback because when the majority are in such a dire position of desperation, they let anything fly, even if it's red flags, red signals, and everything else, because basically, what can you really do about it? He's already got our votes. And so he can just do whatever you want to do now as a part of this great reset that we're in. And he's doing his part to execute that. And of course, it all boils down to what I talk about most, which is rethinking the Federal Reserve note, aka the dollar. Because no matter what comes from the government, it always equals more currency debasement. Okay, so as always, I'm going to get into some good news, get into some market activity. A lot of people are excited about certain things out there. And then get into some of the headlines and actually play some commentary from Thomas Massey, just about a minute and a half, that kind of paints a different picture than what we're being sold from the mainstream media. And so, yeah, this is where we're at, people. And I have an article here talking about rethinking, how global investors are rethinking U.S. assets, or as I like to call them, liabilities. And of course, it has everything to do with the recent downgrading, which basically puts us in a category where we're not the most reliable institution when it comes to being able to repay back what we borrow. So anyway, man, it's going to be a good day, man. As always, for those who might be new, you never know. Oh, got to remind people, it's all about monetary literacy. And if you have not, I'd encourage you, take literally 2 minutes, take this 10-question quiz called the Dollar IQ test. And it basically begins you on your monetary journey to better understand monetary literacy. If you have not taken it, I'd encourage you to take a minute and take it, and then pass it along so other people can also get a chance to test their monetary IQ in reference to the history of what we call a dollar. And then from there, you can begin your journey to understanding monetary policy and everything else, because monetary literacy is the most important concept that is not talked about, while the mainstream narrative is always financial literacy, which is simply after you earn a debt-based instrument, what do you do with it? And the literacy part comes into where give it to them people, let it grow and earn interest in all these financial products, which ultimately doesn't put more purchasing power in your pocket. Whereas in monetary literacy, it helps you understand what actual money is, and it's not anything to do with debt-based IOUs. It is true, tried and tested in the form of sound money. So that's a part of the journey that I've uncovered for myself, doing this for quite some time now. And it's available to you, sweet, simple, and quick. Go to rethinkingthedollar.com/quiz, or just go to Rethinking the Dollar, take it. You'll be more than excited to take it, and then pass it along. Okay, let's get into some good information this morning. I'm going to get into some good news. First and foremost, because that's what ultimately gets the day started. Waking up, plugging in with the good Lord, and seeing what he has for us through his word. And so this is called Committed to Him. It says, "For I know whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep what I have committed to him until that day." 2 Timothy 1:12. And he goes on to say, Have you ever handed something over completely because you knew it was safest in their hands? Paul says, I know whom I have believed, not what, but whom. This is a personal commitment. He's not trusting a concept. He's not betting on a religion. He's committed everything, his life, his calling, even his suffering, to a king who he knows by name. Jesus said in John 10:28, no one will snatch them out of my hands. And that's kingdom talk. That's royal protection. In the Old Testament, David committed his spirit to God in Psalms 31:5. Jesus echoed those same words from the cross. Why? Because everything he was doing was for a kingdom yet to be revealed in the natural. And Paul, he lived in that same hope. Quote, until that day. What day is he referring to? The day of the Lord, the day the king returns back to reclaim his. If you've committed your life to Jesus, he's keeping it, not just for today, but for the day when his kingdom physically takes over this earth. The closing prayer is, Lord, I commit everything to you, trusting that what I give to you today, you will keep until your kingdom comes. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Amen and amen. And as always, the goal is to charge you up spiritually, get your wheels churning, give you something to really chew on for the day, and hopefully it is a blessing to you. So if it was, or if it is, give me an amen in the comments, or in the chats, wherever you're watching at, whenever you're watching. So just my way of trying to be a spiritual encourager to my good people out there in the body of Christ and those that have yet to accept the gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. Okay, so yeah, that just charges me up, man. But okay. Resources. What are some resources? Let's get into some resources. As always, I want to point people to where they can go, take advantage of what I consider to be the most affordable gold on the market. And of course, as you can see over here, the gold backs. Go to buygoldnotes.com or click the link in the description. It'll take you right to this page here. And ultimately what it does is helps you be able to redeem these things here and get you some 24 karat gold notes that only goes up in nominal terms because this only goes down. And so it's a good way to protect and preserve everything you work hard for. So go to buygoldnotes.com, links in the description. And then next, I want to continue to remind people of the importance of being a part of a community where silver is the primary medium, aka the people's money. So on the screen here, if I can get it here, as you can see, top left-hand corner, the Quicksilver Wealth Accelerator Program is a good community of like-minded individuals that want to build out an infrastructure centered around silver. So if you're interested in getting a hold of your own physical store like you see on the page here, then go to mysilverteam.com, become a member of the community by setting up a monthly shipment of silver of any size from a single ounce up to 10 ounces, whatever floats your fancy. And then you'll be able to get your own platform set up and help other people get their weight up and be a part of a community that really makes a difference. So go to mysilverteam.com, links in the description, and you can join the community, get your own store, and become a silver distributor. Cat got my tongue. Okay, let's get into some market activity. What are we looking at right now? Let's get at what we're looking at right now. Get it on the screen here. So as I refresh my screen, let's just see what the prices are. Looks like gold and silver is opening up in a downward trajectory. Not surprising whatsoever. When the debt market, which is clearly being exposed for what it really is, which is broken promises, it's good to say they're going to do everything they can to make sure that this instrument here doesn't reflect true hope as well as safety. And so once again, manipulation can be your friend. Buy it when it's low and everything else take care of itself. All right, so what else we got here? One thing I did notice is that Bitcoin. I see a lot of people excited about Bitcoin, and so as of right now, it has reached an all-time high. So it is $111,000, 134 cents or $134 for a share of a digital ledger known as Bitcoin. And so literally over the last year, it has gone up 58.3%. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. While ultimately what that reflects is that the dollar, aka the Federal Reserve note, has also depreciated substantially. So I'll show you what that looks like on this chart here, and I'll give you a different perspective of the amount of currency debasement weighted in the dollar. And so if you just invert the chart here, so let me bring on the screen here. So if I invert this chart here, this is BTC and USD. And so taking USD as the measuring object and making BTC the standard, literally the US dollar over the last year has depreciated by 37%. 37%. So literally, if you had bought a micro fraction of BTC a year ago, you would be up. Let me get there. You would be up. You would be up 59% with just a micro fraction of BTC over the last year, compared to having lost in potential purchasing power of just holding on to these things alone. You lost 37 potential pieces of purchasing power for a fraction of whatever it is you bought in Bitcoin. So that says a lot there. That says a lot here. And of course, the inverted chart in gold and silver also says the same thing. Holding this for too long and too much of this outside of having a strategy and a plan can be hazardous for your financial health. Okay, so that's it. That is what it is. Okay, let's get into some headlines, man. As always, for those who are plugged in, I put together the news so you can go ahead and grab it for yourself. Just go to rtd.news, links in the description, take you right to this page here. I'll try to put all the information relevant to our talk for today, and it'll give you a chance to actually plug in and see some stuff directly. So I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill. And I talk about it from the standpoint of being very critical, just because I know that any of this stuff that comes out of Congress, it's all bad for our financial future. But that's just how things are. And so I have no confidence whatsoever that there's anything in that bill that's going to help me other than the short term, because once again, nothing that DC can do can actually put more purchasing power in my pocket. So I speak against all these things in the sense that I don't have any hopes for them. And so if that's not your mindset, if you think that Trump can come in and save the day and put more purchasing power back in your pocket, rock out. But based upon what I've seen, what I've studied, all fiat currency goes to zero. And it's just a matter of how fast or how slow. And clearly, this bill will put more pressure on our creditors to make some decisions, because the 20-year auction didn't do well. We're seeing yields spike, which is an indicator that people are doubting that our government is trustworthy. So they're demanding more interest on their debt that they lend to us. So that says it all. And this big bill only be that, just that, a big bill, because who gonna come in and save the day? So let's just glance over what Donald Trump put out on his account this morning, because when I saw it, I'm thinking like, I follow him just because I try to read through it, because I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, or as far as I know him, and I don't know him, so I damn sure don't trust him. But he's what we have, because this is a part of the system. So anyway, let's just go through this real quick. He says, this has come from his Truth Social at 8:23 this morning. And this is a long paragraph, but I'll thumb through it because I like to decipher it, because there's so much stuff in here that, once again, he's a politician, so he has to tell you what you want to hear in order to get this stuff passed. Because if he told you the truth, then nobody would be in support of this at all. But the one big beautiful bill has passed the House of Representatives. This is arguably the most significant piece of legislation that will ever be signed in the history of our country. And that's one of the things where I don't doubt it will be one of the most significant pieces of legislation, because given where we're at now, given what's at stake from a global standpoint, given the lack of confidence in U.S. liabilities, given just where the monetary structure is heading with all this push, the U.S. is so focused right now on a stable coin because of what, I wonder, to where we're having so many problems that this is going to be significant, because this could be the last perhaps major bill before the Grand Awakening, which is some type of cataclysmic event that leads us down that pathway of furthering this reset that he's helping to usher in. So I don't doubt it whatsoever. This is historic in nature, because once again, who's footing this bill? Who's coming to the auction to buy all these bonds? You let me know. Okay. But it said the bill includes massive tax cuts. Whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-doo. Okay, it's better than tax hikes, which the other party was going to do. But once again, it's all about purchasing power. So no matter what, whether I save money because I get less taken out of my income or whatever, once again, I still need more units to buy things, because the overall conditions of our economy, consumer prices will continue to go up regardless of whatever tax cuts I have. So I'm going to spend more regardless, but I won't get more bang for my buck, is what I am concerned with. No taxes on tips. Okay. No tax on overtime. Okay, that's great. Tax deductions when you purchase an American-made vehicle. Once again, prices in American vehicles are already overpriced. They need to come down. I'm not necessarily for that. Along with stronger border security measures. Okay, you got to spend $500 million for that. Pay raises for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Great. Funding for the Golden Dome. I have no confidence in a Golden Dome. Don't want it. Once again, if he's working towards pursuing peace with other nations, then why would we need a Golden Dome? We wouldn't. But when you're being told to do certain things, i.e., the AI infrastructure bill, which is about spending, countless billions to set up this global grandmaster surveillance state, sure, the Golden Dome comes in handy because it puts cameras, eyes, and missiles and everything else all around us and everywhere we can't see. But what else will be built into that stuff, we don't know. So it's being sold as being something that's going to protect us. But if he's pursuing peace with everybody, why do we need to prepare for war or something like that? And then he taught it out similar to the dome that's in Israel. But on October 7th, all of a sudden, everything went down. Oh, okay. Right. So once again, I'm critical of it because I know he's lying. I know he's a part of this. It says Trump's savings account for newborn babies and much more. And the much more part is what we don't know. We'll have to, as Hillary Clinton said, Nancy Pelosi, sign the bill and we'll find out. And so one of the things that really tripped me out, I meant to do a video on it, but I didn't, but the Trump savings account for newborn babies. I was looking to that, and what a joke. It is such a joke. And let me just share my 2 cents on it. Let me pull up a little additional information here. But the very idea of a Trump saving account for newborn babies, at the same time, this guy bringing in this bill, which is going to be $4 trillion plus, will not help at all with $1,000 in an account for a baby, because between now and the end of his presidency, this second term, what would $1,000 be worth in actual purchasing power is the question that people won't even ask themselves. But real quick here, let me give you a little bit of the nuts and bolts of this Trump saving account, because this is such a joke. It is so comical in nature. Overview: Trump saving account. House Republicans have introduced a proposal as part of a major tax bill to create government-funded savings accounts for newborns. Government-funded. Think about this. A government that is inherently broke, system flawed, corrupt as can be, they're setting up a savings account for newborns. Isn't that the parents' job to financially provide for their own children? How does the government get involved in helping set up funds for a baby? So the question is, what they're setting up is that $1,000 is another way for the government to spend. Take that $1,000, you buy government treasuries, which is another way of helping Uncle Sam out because it makes it look like there's a buyer. Now officially named Trump accounts, this initiative, initially dubbed the MAGA accounts, is designed to provide a financial boost to every American child born within a specific time frame. And so it says here, every American baby born between January 1st, 2025 and January 1st, 2029 would receive a $1,000 deposit from the federal government into a Trump account. If parents do not open an account, the government will do it automatically. That's bad. That's horrible. 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 But then again, that's what our government does best. Horrible. That's just bad. Like, set up a savings account and make it seem like it's like great for the unborn. Like, oh, my baby starts out with $1,000. At the same time, they're killing the Federal Reserve note. This is unbelievable. Like, the fact that people don't see through this and like speak out against this. You know what I'm saying? Like, but once again, it's too late. People are captured. People think that this is like great for America. This is a part of making America great again. So, okay. But once again, like I always have to reference and remind people, anything that comes from the government labeled as free or labeled as helpful, ultimately comes back to hurt, because this current government structure is not designed to actually help anybody other than themselves. and the people who actually write the legislation, because everything has a price. And unfortunately, the price is always more than what people realize is at stake. So $1,000 given today, next year, because of the real rate of inflation, i.e. the monetary expansion of the monetary base, will make that $1,000 probably purchase 950 off rip, then 900, then 800. So on paper, that 1,000 may look like it's $1,020, but when you take it out to go put it into circulation, you're going to get less. Hands down, it's mathematically certain. So once again, it's all about purchasing power, and nothing any of these presidents has ever done has helped you as far as helping you preserve your future. From Woodrow Wilson to Donald Trump's second term, all of these presidents have been a part of the same scheme. Using fractional reserve banking through a private, centrally controlled institution to fund the government, to grow the government to the point where they think that they are our parents now, and can issue savings accounts for our babies. Okay, but once again, who am I? I'm just a person that's concerned, but never mind. Okay, so that's just a little something there. Let me keep it moving, because I can go on and on and on. Let me get my pages back here, and then I want to just get into some headlines. I got to actually get to an audio segment, because that's what Donald Trump is talking about. Donald Trump is talking all that good stuff, and I'll let you guys read the rest of this if you're interested. Mind you, it's a marketing pitch. It's a sales pitch. When is the last time a president actually told you the truth? Is a question you got to ask yourself, regardless of what political affiliation you're with. They can't tell the truth. They'll lose their job. Okay, so that's Donald Trump's angle. The big bill, best thing ever created by man. Okay, sure. Whatever you say. Let's get into some other thoughts. I want to take a look at right here. Big, beautiful betrayal, says Peter Schiff. And at this current moment, because Peter Schiff has been more outspoken against the government and telling truth, his timing may be off, but he drops truth bombs at the end of the day. And so when he says anything in reference to betrayal, I'll believe him before I believe a politician, because a politician has a lot at stake. Peter Schiff, just as a business owner, he can lose clients, but if he practices what he preach, he's gonna be better off, because it's centered in gold and everything else. So anyway, let's just look at what Peter Schiff says, and then we'll keep this party going. And as always, for those who are, hit that likes button, thumbs up, wherever you're watching it. And so let's just see what Peter says. Okay, so this is Peter Schiff as of this morning. He says the big, beautiful bill contains 1,106 pages, yet not a single page reduces future deficits. So right now we're at about $2 trillion-ish and counting. Doge is supposed to save us some money, saving crumbs in comparison to the astronomical debt load we have. Won't work, but it's a good cover. And so the deficit will continue, because without a deficit, we can't live the life we live in this country, because it's all centered around credit. Mind you, look at everything around you. If you didn't have credit to be able to purchase it, life wouldn't be the same for you either. So everything we do is based upon credit. The deficit helps keep credit good for us on the consumer side, from the commercial banks. It says, in fact, they make them larger. Only 2 House Republicans have the courage to vote against this monstrosity. Massey. And Donald Trump came out blasting Massey the other day. He came out blasting Massey, calling him all types of degenerates, and he's not really a politician. I'm thinking, like, this guy has put forth a lot of bills that just seemed ridiculous. And then it says here he has 30 patents. He's an inventor. He's a farmer. He's an engineer. So I would say he is more in favor of truth than an actor serving as a president. Businessman too. So, and I Trump is a debt king, so he also has a angle to portray. And then Davison here, it says Warren Davison, representing Ohio's 8th district. He has a smaller fan base, but once again, he voted against it. And you got to ask yourself, why would these two guys come out, risk their seats? Because he basically threatened them, saying that if you don't sign on, you're going to lose your seat next term, which they probably will. But then again, if the American people come together and realize that these two gentlemen stand for truth and want to alleviate or eliminate the need for all this excess debt, then they should get their seats back. But once again, I wouldn't hold my breath. But the fact they're willing to risk their political careers for truth, We don't have many of those guys. But you had all the other dozens of people just oh, let me sign off on this big, beautiful bill that adds trillions. But I figure let's find out exactly what does it add. And so here is some information here on the big, beautiful bill. Big, beautiful. Think of just whenever you hear those words, big and beautiful, you should know. Run. Okay, so big, beautiful bill. Total amount of money allocated. So let me just get to some details here. It says the big, beautiful infrastructure bill, hypothetical, 1.2 trillion spend over 10 years, 550 billion in federal spending for roads, bridges, broadband, clean energy. Once again, things that the private sector should focus on, not a broke government. Made in America requirements for materials, workforce development programs, climate resilience measures. There's no price tag to that, but if you got to spend, i.e. by borrowing funds you don't have to support climate, then that lets us know that that's still a part of the agenda. So these are probably some of the pork that's just because this whole 1,116 was not written by Trump. It was written by people who are in his ear who have agendas, and of course they just give him the credit for it, just like they gave him the credit for those things. Okay, but what else here? Total cost of the big bill, and this is just premature costs. This is just early because we don't really know until it's passed. The total cost of one big beautiful bill act, as estimated by the official Congressional Joint Office on Taxation, is approximately 3.8 trillion over the next decade. So it's going to cost 3.8 roughly in 10 years. It says while the gross cost of the tax cuts and new provisions approaches 4.5 trillion, the bill also includes 1 trillion in spending cuts to partially offset these costs, resulting in the net increase of the federal debt of around 3.8 trillion over 10 years. Once again, if you believe that, I don't. I'm taking that 4.5 and saying like, okay, that's it. That's just something to kick the can further. Mind you, the 4.5 will not result in anything beneficial. Majority of the things that's going to be paid for through this bill will not come into fruition. That's just the way. Most of the funds will be misappropriated, lost, or swindled by whoever. We just know how this works. I do anyway. Okay. And so that's just that. Let me keep it going. Let me get to some other interesting things here. Let me get myself together here. Okay, so let me stop wasting time. Let me get to, so we saw what Peter Schiff said. Now I want to go to someone who I'm starting to respect a lot more, and that has to do with Thomas Massie. So I'm going to play for you a segment of his rebuttal against this big bill and him dropping what I would consider more truth, factual statements than lies because he gives numbers. And so it's titled Debt Bomb Known as the Big Beautiful Bill. He calls it a debt bomb. So let's listen to this real quick. And then I'll share my 2 cents on it because this to me is very important. Let me zoom in here and I'll make it so that. So we're going to listen to this. I'll probably try to make it play a little faster so that we can get through this in a timely manner. But just take a look, listen to this. Also, let me know if you guys can hear it because I want to make sure I turn it up on my side here so I can hear it. Give me 1 second here. It looks like the desktop audio was not working. Let me make sure. Default. Let me make sure. Give me 1 second. Let me make sure. Okay. I should be good to go. Let me make sure my audio is good.
We can cut your taxes and we can increase spending and everything's going to be just fine. But I can't do that because I'm here to deliver a dose of reality. This bill dramatically increases deficits in the near term, but promises our government will be fiscally responsible 5 years from now. Where have we heard that before? How do you bind a future Congress to these promises? This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math, if it wants, but bond investors don't. And this week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy our debt and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on the 10-year note, the 20-year note, and the 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. And what are we telling them? Instead of taking care of that problem, we're going to give you a $1,600 tax break. Under the taxing and spending levels in this bill, we're going to rack up, the authors say, $20 trillion of new debt over the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's closer to $30 trillion of new debt in the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight. I oppose this bill.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentlemen.
If it's something not beautiful, you don't do it after midnight. Ain't that something? Pushing a bill through late at night when everybody's asleep because the American people don't really need to know what's in the bill. So once again, debt bombs, the total cost of what is projected, the numbers are astronomical. And we're supposed to get a $1,600, this and that, whatever, but really it's going to be $16,000 added to our total per population debt load. That's just, you can say Thomas Massey lying, or that's just a side of the coin that those in power don't want us to know. I'll let you be the judge of that. So once again, that's just something worth considering that you won't hear from the mainstream media being promoted the way that it was. I consider that truth. That's just me. Okay, so we got Thomas Massey's take on it. But it doesn't stop there. Let me keep it going. Let's keep this party going. A couple more things here. As a result of all this debt and stuff that we're experiencing, there should be concern about how will our creditors or previous creditors, Japan, China, the European nations, and everybody else that's been forced to support our debt binge because the currency at play here is centered around the Federal Reserve note. What are they thinking? Oh, let's find out. It says investors rethink U.S. assets, liabilities, what you want to call them, ECB says. So let's just see what they're thinking. What are they rethinking? A fundamental regime shift could be underway as investors rethink U.S. assets. And I'll give you a little nutshell here. ECB suggested that investors seem to be rethinking U.S. assets. What exactly is he referring to here? European Central Bank on Wednesday said the fundamental regime shift could be underway in financial markets as investors appear to be reassessing how risky U.S. assets really are in the wake of the trade tariffs. How risky? It says the ECB, Financial Stability Review, ECB discussed the recent spike in market volatility off the back of global trade tensions by U.S. tariff, whatever. Markets have been reacting sensitively to the frequent updates around the trade and levies from the U.S. and its trading partners. Stocks first tumbled when the U.S. president announced sweeping tariffs before rebounding when he declared 90-day delay. It says during the turmoil, marketing functioning, which can be thought of as a ability to trade financial assets quickly without moving price inordinately, in Euro era financials held up well. Says, while this could have been linked to technical factors, the ECB says it may have also been a broader trigger. And so literally, the mere concerns over the uncertainty and the wish-washiness of this whole trade war is enough to cause people to begin reassessing, rethinking things in reference to how they interact with U.S. markets and U.S. assets. And he's more so probably hinting at continue to support our debt, i.e. by buying, as Thomas Massey mentioned, our long-term debt, the 20 to 30 to 5 and 10, everything else is seeing somewhat of a spike these days. And speaking of which, here's another one. Another little interesting article that came out, which also gives a more accurate picture of what people should be thinking. Investors dump bonds globally as U.S. credit downgrade. Trump's tax bill ignite fiscal worries. And so this big, beautiful bill puts a lot of pressure on our creditors to wonder, they're just spending willy-nilly. They're packaging it up in these pieces of legislation labeled big, beautiful bill, which cuts the taxes in America on citizens. So therefore, the revenue that they would usually have to pay us interest they're not going to have as much. So what are we going to do? We're going to continue to lend them knowing that they're cutting off their own income streams through taxation, and they think that they're going to tax us through tariffs. Yeah, you see the confusion in this. This is how things get crazy because it sounds good, may seem good, but who's going to foot the bill? That's the thing people aren't talking about. And so when you see headlines talking about investors thinking about dumping our bonds globally, higher yields is what you can expect. And just to show you what I'm referring to, let me share this with you. So as of right now, 10-year, 4.5, and this is the last 3 months. So since this whole liberation concept, borrowing cost has become more expensive. And then if you go down to the very bottom, you can see the yield curve in general. And literally, this is the yield curve. So literally the farther end of the debt spectrum is also rising substantially. And so we went from a inverted yield curve to the yield curve widening now because yields across the board are going up. That's a problem. And so once again, a nation that depends on borrowing, someone has to foot the bill in order for that person to borrow, or they reshake up the monetary landscape by allowing the Federal Reserve to come in and be the issuer, the buyer, and everything else. And we're off to a hyperinflationary type of environment because you can't literally print money willy-nilly, print currency willy-nilly, and then not show up in inflationary factors, i.e., greater cost of living for us. And they're supposed to be, their mandate is price stability. What is stability in a world where they are, creating that wheel? 2%, 2.5, 2.6, but in actuality, what, 8, 9, 10%, CPI figures? I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to find out, that's for sure. But in the meantime, you guys know what time it is. Continue to do what you do best. Protect yourself from all this big, beautiful betrayal that we're witnessing. Okay, let me see what else I got here for you. Let me give you a little bit more here. Let me get myself situated here. Let me go back to my RTD.news, and then I'll draw down with this one. As a result of this, let's just keep it moving. We have the Treasury sounds the death knell for the penny production. So literally because the cost of creating a penny has gone up substantially and the actual purchasing power of a penny has diminished, the Treasury is going to cancel the penny. And so it says 1-cent coins are expected to stop entering circulation early next year. Businesses will need to round prices up or down. So think about this. Because of the cost of existing nowadays has become somewhat out of hand, a penny, which served a purpose up until monetary inflation became a problem, you actually needed a penny to divvy up small increments of change. Now they're telling businesses, you got to round up. That means you got to come out of the cost by giving your customer a 5 cents, a nickel, or a dime to make it suitable for that transaction, which means you nickel and dime a business with their customers. That adds up. So for businesses that do a lot of cash paper transactions, having to give a rounded up version of change will cut into their profits. So you can see how that's not going to go well with the consumer base, with the retail, with the business owners. And so it's going to impact the consumer because what they're going to do is say, hey, we're going cashless. I don't want to give you an extra 3 cents by rounding up to a nickel and losing at the end of the day, because that nickel here, nickel there could equal thousands of dollars at the end of the month. So we're going to just implement cashless. That's where this is going. It's quite obvious for those that realize what's at play. So once again, these are some things that I think are worth paying attention to. Stuff you won't hear in the mainstream media from the way that it's presented here is very critical of this craziness because it doesn't make sense on the surface, but it has to sell in order for it to get signed so that the system can keep chugging along. While all along, as I always say, and I'm going to keep saying it until I can't no more, because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. No matter who's in office, you're going to miss out because you're going to get robbed, because they're going to print more, which dilutes what you have, which means that your cost of living goes up. Everything you work hard for, save, and this instrument, you're going to lose out on. So that's why I can see people are looking for alternatives, ways of diversifying their approach to savings investing and everything else. Because ultimately, there's no real investing nowadays, because risk is so much greater now. The likelihood of a person losing is greater. Therefore, that's gambling. That's like going to casino 50-50 on black and red. Like, put it on black and red. Is it 50-50 now, or could it be 75-50, depending on how you play the game? So it's more speculation than investing, which is closer to gambling than it is being able to put your funds in this account here and let it grow over time, and you'll be hunky, happy ever after at the end of the day. No, those days are done. Anyway, that being the case, people, as always, all the strategies, possible things to consider, check them out in the description. If you've enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up. Take this, share it, so more people can get an alternative perspective. And once again, just drop it to you straight. No chaser. Anyway, be blessed, be safe, love, live, laugh, learn. Catch you later. Shalom.